Good morning and welcome to Rose Red Homestead. It's a couple of days after Christmas. It's a snowy day outside, and I'll tell you, we've already had more snow this year than we have had for the past 2 years combined. So we even had half of a white Christmas. It started snowing a little bit on Christmas afternoon. We have leftover ham, and I am going to turn that into split pea soup with ham when we come right back. Split pea soup with ham is a very simple thing to make and to preserve. To have quarts of split pea soup already on your pantry shelf is a wonderful way to stay prepared and to have a lovely meal in the middle of winter when it is snowing outside. Here are the ingredients. Now, as I mentioned in our clam chowder video, the USDA has approved only 3 recipes for using cured meats, and ham is a cured meat. One of those recipes is split pea soup with ham, and we are going to be following that recipe precisely because it has been tested. So I'm going to be constrained to the ingredients that are part of this recipe. Now, the recipe that is found in the Ball Blue book calls for the ingredients enough to make 2 quarts plus a little bit of extra. So I am 3 timesing this recipe because I want to make a full canner batch of 7 quarts of soup. So the amounts that I'm going to give you are for 7 quarts. So the first ingredient, of course, is split peas. And this recipe, times 3, calls for 6 cups of split peas. Now, I just bought some 1-pound packages of split peas, and I dumped one out in a measuring cup, and it is exactly 2 cups. So that means it's going to take 6 cups or 3 pounds. So that's what we'll use in terms of the peas. And then we will simmer those peas in 24 cups of liquid. Now, for my liquid, you can either use all 24 cups of water, or you can use whatever stock or broth you may have on hand. Now, I happen to have a couple of quarts of onion stock. So that is what I'm going to be putting in the pan first, and then we'll fill it up to 24 quarts. We're going to dump the peas in, and then we are going to simmer it for an hour while the peas get soft. After that hour, we will put in the remaining ingredients. Now, the remaining ingredients are 3 cups of onions. Now, these are onions that are chopped. I only had 2 cups of fresh onions, so I'm going to be adding an additional 1/4 cup of my dehydrated onions to compensate for that last cup. This is 4½ cups of sliced carrots and 3 cups of ham. And then, and the ham, of course, is already cooked. We had it for Christmas dinner. So, and then some bay leaves. So we will get right to it. The first thing I'm going to do is put the liquid in the pan, and that would be these 2 quarts of onion soup stock. And these I canned back in July, so they are a few months old and very yummy. So I'm just going to dump both of those in completely. We'll still need to add some more water. And I love this pan. This is a Cuisinart pasta cooking pan. It has measurements on the inside. So I'm just going to now fill this up to 24 cups. So this is 24 cups of onion broth mixed with water. And you can use whatever you want. If you want to put chicken bouillon cubes in here and make some chicken broth, whatever you want. And now I'm just going to add the peas. So here's 2 cups of peas. And then here's another 1-pound package, which is an additional 2 cups. And 2 more cups here, make 6 cups of peas. Now that's all there is to this step, so I'm going to put this on the stove and lightly simmer this for an hour until the peas are soft. So we'll come back at that point. The peas have gently simmered for about an hour, and if you can get a real close-up here, you can see the peas that are now just below the surface of the liquid. So they have expanded a great deal, and they are completely soft. Now what we want to do, we have a choice here. We can either leave the peas like this and continue, or we can run them through a food mill or a blender to make the soup very smooth. And we're going to put ours through the blender. So we'll do that, and I'll just do one on camera so you can see about the consistency. And then we will go off camera to do the rest. So I'm going to be putting it in this clean pan, and you can see that it is pretty thin. Okay, I'm going to finish this and then I'll bring you back as soon as I've done all of this. It took 5 different sessions with the blender to get all of this blended up. I want to show you the consistency now. The last couple of batches were thicker because there were more peas involved. And so this is now a nice thick split pea soup. It looks wonderful, smells wonderful. And now we're going to add the ham. This is 3 cups of ham, 4½ cups of sliced carrots, this is 2 cups of sliced onion. We need 3 cups, so I'm taking 1/4 cup of my onion flakes, dehydrated onion flakes, and putting those in. That was just about 1/4 cup. And then 3 bay leaves. And we will fish these bay leaves out before we bottle it. Also, the recipe says that you can also, if you desired, it is optional, but you can add 3/4 of a teaspoon of allspice. I'm all out of allspice, so if we elect to do that, we will do it as we open up a quart and get it ready to serve. So I'm going to stir this up now, and then this goes back on the stove for a 30-minute simmer, and then we will be ready to put it into the jars. So we will come back at that point. Well, let me show you this first. Okay, we'll be back shortly. The mixture has simmered for 30 minutes, and take a look at it. It just looks lovely. I have fished out 2 of the bay leaves, but the other one is in there somewhere, so we'll watch for it when we are jarring it up. So it has thickened up quite a bit. So here we go. Whew, the jars are hot right out of the dishwasher. And the solids are pretty much evenly distributed throughout the pea soup, so I'm going to just dip and pour. Oh, I hate this measuring cup, it just leaks. All right, and we're going to leave about that much headspace. I'm going to quickly just reach in there and make sure there's no hiding air bubbles. And we will continue to pour. Ah, bay leaf. Ta-da! There's our third bay leaf. We're leaving a good inch of headspace. And air bubbles. This soup will be ready to eat right off the shelf. All we do is heat and eat, which makes it very, very nice. This is one of the few recipes that permits pureeing the food. Mostly, like when you're doing pumpkin, they don't want you to do pumpkin puree. They would like for you to do it in chunks. I did the puree once. I won't do it again. I will do pumpkin in chunks. And that is because the way the heat travels through the jars. When you do a puree, it is much thicker. The liquid is more dense, and, well, thick and dense, same thing. And it is more difficult for the heat to penetrate all the way to the middle. And so that's what the USDA is concerned about when we can, because it has to with pressure canning, because we are canning low acid foods. We need to get the center of the food up to 250 degrees, 240, between 240 and 250, to make sure that the botulism spores are all dead. So that's why it's really important for us to follow the rules, the guidelines more than rules, that the USDA has worked very hard through scientific testing over decades to be sure that everything that they recommend is backed by scientific data. And I deeply appreciate that. While this was cooking, I did take a little taste, and it required salt and pepper. So I added about a teaspoon of salt and a half a teaspoon of pepper. Probably more will be needed when it's at the table, and that's just fine. So you kind of are able to do that to taste. A little bit more on that one. And here's our last quart. And there we have it. And it looks like we are going to have enough left for lunch for us. So we will be very pleased to have that for lunch in just a little bit. So I have my wet paper towel all ready to go around the edges of these jars. Using that funnel protected these rims greatly, which was very nice. And here are the lids. They have been washed with hot soapy water and left here to drain. And now the lids, the rings, and these will process for 90 minutes, and I will meet you out at the canner in just a moment. We're out here at my canning center and it's snowing a little bit, but it's also melting, so you probably can hear the sound of dripping off the roof, so the snow isn't going to last very long. The canner has been simmering out here, and so we're putting the hot jars in a hot canner. These are the last 3 going in. There they are. And now I'm going to put the lid on. And we'll turn the heat up. And as soon as this is vented for 10 minutes, then we'll wait for the dial to come up to 13. We're at 5,000 feet. The USDA tables say that at our elevation we need to do it at about 13 pounds per square inch because we have a dial canner. If you have a weighted gauge canner, then you would be doing it at 15 if your elevation is over 1,000 feet. So once it comes up to temperature, then we will process for 90 minutes, and then we will let it cool on its own, at which time we will bring you back when we take them out of the canner and we will see the results of our work today. So we'll see you in a little while. All right, so the canner is here. Well, it's cooled down, but not to the touch because I just burned my fingers by touching the top of it, but it's still no more steam, so we're good. So I'm going to open it. I just heard one of our jars pop. And here we have a jar of pea soup, split pea soup with ham. And it is beautiful, so I'm going to put them right over here. It's very cold outside, so we cannot leave these out here very long. All right, so here we have 7 quarts of our split pea soup with ham. Now, there are a couple of things I need to tell you if you are unfamiliar with home canned pea soup. First of all, the split pea material, whether you have pureed it or not, is heavier than all of the rest, and so it is going to sink to the bottom. And this means that when you are heating it up, you need to be sure that you stir it and don't put it on really high heat. Otherwise, it's very easy to scorch all of that pea material that is at the bottom. So just keep it stirred up a little bit. Also, that means that when it's on your shelf, it may separate. Take a look at this one right here. This one is already started. Notice that there is water right here, this watery liquid. The carrots are here, and then here is the other stuff here. And it's the same in all of these, although this one is more pronounced than others. Here's another one where it is. And that the pea material congeals just like Jell-O. If you leave split pea soup out on the countertop, if you have leftovers after you've had a meal, then you'll come back later and it's congealed kind of like Jell-O. So all of that is very normal for split pea soup, so don't even worry about it. Now, when Jim and I had some of this for lunch, I can just tell you that it was fabulous. It's just very delicious. And split pea soup is very nutritious as well. It's very good for you. It's a great winter food. So we're going to leave these out here and let them cool down a while. Then we'll bring them in the house because it is below freezing out here. And in fact, we're pretty freezing ourselves. So thank you for joining us on this adventure, and join us again next time. We'll see you next time.